This is an audiobook recording of the complete short story Moon Goes Missing, 2014. Moon Goes Missing. 1. Thousands of stars filled the night sky like jagged diamonds glistening in aleatoric rhythms. They were laid across a deep, dark purple backdrop which gave depth to the scene. As Moon looked up and watched in awe, his eyes grew wide and glistened themselves, reflecting the splendor of it all. The evening was still. There was a presence in the air, a perceptible thickness. The earth was warm, and from this warmth, fog appeared. "I greet you this evening," he said to Moon, who was still mesmerized by the stars. Moon slowly turned his eyes and calmly replied, "Good evening, Fog. It's about time you show your face this hour. The temperature has been dropping." Fog drifted into Moon's space and shared with him his moisture, where they hovered together and reacquainted for the first time of the coming season. "I can see the stars in your eyes," remarked Fog, who then too glanced up to see the dizzying patterns of lights and dust on the vast convex canvas. They were above an open field surrounded by towering trees of green. Below were 2 deer slowly moving about, their noses to the ground, patiently nibbling on the damp grasses. "These guys come here often," said Moon, motioning to the field. "Usually in a pair like that. I think they like when I'm full like this. They seem to move around better with the light. They used to come with 3 others, small ones, but lately it's just been them 2. And since the others have left, they move closer together now. Yeah, they really like it when I'm full like this." Moon looked down to see them meandering. On occasion, the deer would stop to raise their heads and perk their ears and alert to an unfamiliar sound in the distance. They shared a chemistry as if connected and responded instantly to each other's reactions. Moon focused in, and from the affection, a rush of crimson warmth pervaded his body. He then looked up at the stars, where the brilliance remained, and he exhaled. Though, progressively, his warm vibrations turned cooler to a bluish color, and an odd sense of longing came over him. His body's surface, which had opened like liquid earlier to the pleasant sight of the pair, turned cold and hardened. A withdrawn dullness then glazed his eyes as he continued to look up. He inhaled, breathing in the night's infinitude, when all of a sudden a thrilling bolt struck his body like a clock tower on the hour. A stark movement of light had appeared in the sky, moving steadily across the vibrant expanse. Moon looked up and with his gaping eyes followed the light as it headed in an easterly direction. "Did you see?" he shouted to Fog, who had by this time drifted down and over to the trees. "There's a light," he went on. "It's still going. Do you see it?" From between rustling leaves, Fog peeked up to Moon with an inquisitive stare, then looked up at the sky. He scanned for the light, but could see nothing but the twinkling stars and the faded strip of white, Lactea, splitting the whole sky down the middle. "There it is," Moon pointed with his emphatic eyes. "I've never seen one last like that, it moving and burning like that, and more light stretched out behind it. Fantastic." But the light moved quickly out of view and dissolved into the sky, as if going beyond the dots of starlight. "And there it goes," Moon murmured, and peered desperately into the spot where the light had vanished. "Was it a shooting star?" Fog asked, still moving through the trees, but rising a bit to get closer to Moon. "You know, you can make a wish with those ones. You can wish for anything, and it usually comes true." "I've seen those before," replied Moon, and have wished. But this was quite different. It really surprised me. I'm used to seeing all sorts of stars with what I do, how I live. I'm always out here with the open sky, stargazing, as they call it. But I'm not used to this, no sir. Well, if it wasn't a shooting star, what was it? Fogg questioned. An airplane, maybe. Those new things that fly with wings like birds and hold humans inside. They have lights on them. No, I don't think so. I've seen airplanes, said Moon. They have clear, blinking lights, white and red ones, different from this. Moon looked back up toward where the light had gone. Fogg did the same, only his countenance was different. Fogg looked up in confusion, not knowing where to direct his attention, while Moon's face took on a look of certainty and determination. Something special, Moon concluded. His voice was sharp and steady, with a teeming weight behind it. 2. The light had been moving to the east, while Moon's course was a westward one, as it was his duty to follow that way. Ever since he could remember, it had been his sole responsibility to lounge back and let the force of the earth guide his orbit. There was a training period of this around the time he was formed. Other round bodies instructed him and other smaller round bodies of all different shapes and sizes to breathe in and breathe out and focus on the resonance that resulted from the breathing. Some of the trainees had troubles sustaining the resonance, so they were moved to another area and given bands to wear around the tops of their bodies just above their eyes, which supposedly helped them to better complete the task. Moon, however, was skilled in the exercise and took pleasure in the vibrations he felt as he breathed in and breathed out with reassuring ease. On the last day of training, after all 100 or so round bodies proved they could breathe properly and uphold their duties, they were divided into 5 groups, not evenly, but of 53, 50, 27, 13, and 3. Moon was surprised at being selected to join the group of 3, but made no objection. 27 additional round bodies were left behind for additional training, and Moon was glad to be moving on to someplace new, no matter the group, no matter how small. Let's go, we're leaving soon, a weary voice sounded, approaching with urgency. Moon saw a round body, much smaller than he, coming to join him, and lagging behind the small one was another round body, a tad bigger than the first one, but each only about 1% the size of Moon. Okay, I guess it's us 3, said the smaller of the two. I'm Deimos, and this is Phobos. Hi, I'm Moon. It's nice to meet you. Deimos and Phobos, those are interesting names. Do you know what they mean? Do you remember what they told you during training? He asked in a cordial tone, but the two just hovered with unresponsive faces, so he continued. They told me I have a nickname, Luna, if I ever wanted to use it, but I prefer Moon because of the sound in the middle. It reminds me of a circle when I say it and hear it. But I really do like Luna. It's a pretty name. If I can remember, my real name is related to time somehow. They told me I'm going to a place where time and schedules will be important someday, and that'll help with organizing it all. Deimos and Phobos maintained their stares. Phobos, the larger of the two, had an irregularly shaped body, still round, but a bit lopsided. Above his eyes was a worn and faded strip of a lighter color where the supplement band had been. We're brothers, said Deimos in the same unsteady tone as before. He's on the inside and I'm on the outside. Are you alone? Moon was perplexed by the unfamiliar question. The brothers looked on with their stares, this time expecting a response. "Alone," said Moon softly to himself. "Alone, alone, all one." 3. The trees were still green, but were getting drier, which made the wind blowing against their leaves and branches a little louder with more pronounced echoes. Brilliant yellows and oranges and reds were on their way shortly to arrive, and all that was living could anticipate the miraculous change that was ahead. Moon looked to the east, but his hopeful eyes were dismantled by the harsh reality of absence. And the harder he looked, the more his eyes played tricks on him. A false spark darted across the night sky, a mere illusion. Drifting in orbit, away from the open field with the deer romancing about, Moon breathed in and breathed out. His out-breath was more of a sigh that shook his round body with a frustrated chatter. The summer insects played their songs, buzzing and chirping, hypnotic to Moon, which flooded him with memories of his past, of all that he knew. By now, Moon had gotten well used to how the seasons were unique. The insects were loudest in summer, and he was definitely noticing their volume lowering. Moon let out another sigh. Breathing had long been a habit of Moon's, and rightly so, because in addition to keeping him on track, it was his cure-all for any troubling situation. After seeing the light move across the sky in radiance, admiring its unique burst of bright dust trailing behind it like a tail, then watching it drift away and disappear like that, feelings of sadness and melancholy hovered with Moon like an unwelcome companion. These were negative feelings, so naturally, Moon turned his attention to his breathing, which put him in a soft, neutral daze. The giant force Moon and all the others had learned about and studied so rigorously guided him forward, further and further away from those grandiose ideas sparked by the light. Moon now drifted and drifted, his mind motionless. Fog remained with the trees, mingling with them, distributing his humidity to the leaves and branches, absorbing their scent in return. As time moved on, fog had grown and multiplied, emerging in places all over, even places that were his favorites, like those above water. 4. Clear instructions, including directions to their final locations, were given to Deimos, Phobos, and Moon. They were huddled together in their group of 3, eager to coast off on their own, excited with nerves like young children on their first night away from home. "Remember," a large and aged round body told them from ahead, "there's a force far more powerful than what you can do yourself. Just listen to that power and you'll be fine. If you ever get confused or lose touch with your purpose, just breathe in and breathe out like we've practiced, which will keep you on proper course." The smaller bodies looked in but listened with distracted attention. They had been through years of development and preparation, amassed in a way that now defined them. Like they were born with this knowledge, it grew on them and became second nature. During training, all 100 or so bodies had practiced like athletes. Consider athletes who train countless hours with all the monotonous drills and repetitions, the end being to reach that state of perfection with their performance. They build and strengthen their skills for the sake of getting more familiar with them, toward their ease and fluidity. Then a naturalness occurs, a state of nature gained, a second nature, after the first, an innate one. By the end, the two types become nearly indistinguishable. "I trust you have your items," said the large body in a leader-like tone. He acted with a tender sternness, similar to how parents coddle their children in hopes to instill preparedness and competence in them. One book, one set of eye lenses, one set of eye covers, one enhancement patch, one emergency beacon device. Yes, sir, the three responded in unison. The items were located on their backsides, opposite their eyes, and were attached like magnets with no other support but the bond. Each item had its specific purpose and was clearly explained in the training, more knowledge that had become second nature. Okay then, follow me to the launching point, the large body said. Say, what was your favorite word? Moon asked Deimos and Phobos, as they all drifted together, following the leader. I remember when we were on the E-pages, replied Deimos. Extreme sounded good to me. It sounded strong and powerful. Oh yes, I know that one. Good word, said Moon. How about you, Phobos? Phobos was silent, drifting automatically with the others, but not entirely cognizant of the conversation being had. Phobos, what's your favorite word? Asked Deimos. Brother, he responded very thoughtfully, coming back like an on switch had been turned on, activating him. Oh yes, that's a good one too. And from brother, there's brotherhood, and brotherly, and even brethren, Moon said in excitement. He had become very fond of words during the training, studying each page with diligence, learning hundreds and hundreds of terms full of flavors and degrees, and images and sensations. My favorite comes from the B pages too, he continued. Beauty. 5. Along the soggy banks, bullfrogs were croaking with their outward sounds, their echoes piercing, at times requited, at others not. I'm glad to see you back, old pal, said Fogg, looking up to him from the glassy water. By this time, Fogg's body had flattened, coating the water's surface with a thin, transparent film. He was always changing shape, expressing himself in all sorts of forms. Moon looked down to acknowledge Fogg in his new incarnation, but was distracted when he could see his own illuminated body shining back at him. He looked beyond Fogg's lair, through and past it, and studied his own outline, which showed a distinct contrast between the blinding circle glowing bright and the deep and dark night sky around it in the background. At the sight of himself, his eyes grew wide like busy eggs about to hatch. He fed off of it, similar to how he used his breathing. This close examination made him feel alive more than ever. His round body became filled with what felt like tiny fireflies, with flapping wings tickling his insides. It was an exhilarating delight. The closer he looked, the stronger the sensations became. Also, as he looked more and more, he sensed his size increasing, blowing up like a balloon, and his tone brightening, so much so that he was a little worried he might actually explode or catch fire. Then, instantaneously, a spark fluttered in the reflection and came into view. The sight, as if appearing from nowhere, produced a flood of new emotions, different ones that were oddly comforting. To get a closer look, Moon turned his body to the sky and saw the light moving closer and closer, the image growing larger and larger. It was headed right for him. The light, Moon discovered, was a rock about the size of one of his eyes and had struck him on the top of his body, falling away afterwards but leaving a clear indent. Ouch! Moon answered to the hit. A bit confused and aching some, stupefied by what had just happened, he looked back down to the water and found Fog there, looking back, whose consistency was a bit thicker this time. "Was that the light you saw earlier?" Fog questioned. Moon responded with a look first contemptuous, then let out an uncontrollable, jovial chuckle. The end.